Hello, so I'm going to show you how to make some sweet chili tofu on top of rice. It's fried tofu. This is a recipe I make every week. It's fairly easy to do. I'm going to show you how to prep everything, how to press the tofu, how to cook the rice in a rice cooker, and then how to cut the tofu and how to fry it, and then how to do everything to prepare the meal afterwards. It's pretty simple once you get a hang of it. I'm using nothing but simple ingredients. I don't use complicated stuff. This is something my family loves to eat every week, and the recipe I'm doing will feed a family of 4 easily. So I'm going to start with how to press tofu. A lot of people have never done it. It's real easy to do. If you don't have a tofu press, I recommend getting one if you're going to use this a lot, because working with tofu, because without it, it's a pain. I mean, you can put something over it like a plate, put some books on it for now, but you can get these tofu presses for about $15. You look around on the internet. So get you a block of tofu, and I've already trained this one, but you just cut the top off. I usually leave one side and then drain the water out of it. The tofu is real wet, so keep the block of tofu and keep the packaging for afterwards. And then a tofu press, if you look at it, it has a square. I don't know if you can see that, but if you look inside it, there's a square that's shaped like a block of tofu inside. So open it up all the way, and I usually take something to put it in to catch the water, and then I line this tofu up on that square. Kind of press it in, and then you gotta be perfect. You want it kind of in the center so it presses evenly, and then just push it to a little bit. Turn these screws. You can see water starting to drip out already. Make sure it's pressing evenly, and I usually turn it until it starts to bulge on all sides. If you do it too much, the tofu will burst. And this is firm tofu. You can get extra firm if you want, but firm's usually fine. So now that I have that here, I'm gonna let it just sit here and trip for about 20 to 30 minutes. And that's usually good enough. So let's let that trip, and then we'll be ready to do the rest of the recipe. Okay, so the tofu has sat 30 minutes. Quite a bit of water has came out of it. And water doesn't have any flavor. Tofu sucks up whatever flavor you put in it. And that's the trick to making tofu. You get the water out and get some actual flavor in it. So we're going to take this block out. Be careful with it so don't rip to pieces. I mean, it still feels wet, but that's fine. It's going to. So I'm going to take the package I had, make sure it's empty. I'm going to put it back in the package. And now you can take some seasoning and put in there to let it marinate. I'm using Dell's seasoning. I'm using lesser sodium. It doesn't have any meat products or anything in it, so this is, everything I'm doing is vegetarian. Anyhow, I'm going to take the Dell's, and I'm just going to pour on it all around it. You can see it going inside there. You can use soy sauce, whatever. You can use whatever you want. I mean, but Dell's is strong. It really gets into things, so it really gets into the tofu good. So once I got it in here, I'm gonna let this sit. You want it to sit about an hour and marinate at least. Longer's better, but I would say at least an hour. So I'm gonna do, if you're gonna do the same amount I'm doing for this meal for a family of 4, I would do 2 blocks. Family of 2, you can just do 1 block. Unless y'all just don't eat as much as we do. But all right, so I'm gonna put this in the refrigerator for an hour, and then once that hour's over and both blocks are done, I'm gonna put them in the freezer for about 20-30 minutes, and that helps it cut easier. So after I pull these out of the freezer, we'll come back and do the rest. Well, while that tofu is in the freezer getting cold, makes it easier to cut, we're going to get the batter ready. Mix. So I'm going to take some flour, And when I make this, I make enough for 2 weeks. So you can put a little less if you want, not just do this 5, but I put a couple inches of flour out of a small bag. See, there's just a little bit in there. And then I take breadcrumbs, and I put a lot of breadcrumbs in it. Spill some on the counter. And I'm using Italian breadcrumbs. A little crunch. You can put whatever in here you want, whatever seasonings. I just use whatever I have. There is a couple things I like to put in regularly. I like to put in some cayenne pepper, just a little bit. And then I put in cumin in it. And cumin's a strong spice. It don't take a ton. You can smell it. And then I like to add a little more garlic powder into mine. And I'll go a little heavy on that. And then I'll take just regular pepper and put in a good bit of little pepper. Mix it around. I think I'm going to add a little bit more breadcrumbs. Alright. And that's my mix to put the tofu in. You're going to need another bowl when we get started. You'll see why in a bit. Now, also I'm going to go ahead and get my rice going. Now, everybody has different rice cookers. You can do it in a pot, but I'm going to show you how I do it in my rice cooker. You can read your instructions, maybe a little different. Every rice cooker cooks a little different. But what I do for this family of 4 is I'll take to feed 4, I'll take a bag of rice, just a regular pound of rice, and put it in the rice cooker's pot. And then, a lot of people don't, but you really should rinse rice. Rinse the extra starch off. And I'll add some water to this and I'll show you what I mean. So you just go in there like this, your fingers. I don't know if you can see that, but the water's cloudy. That's the extra starch off the rice. You don't need that, so what you want to do is to run your fingers through it, pour the water out, and keep doing that until the water looks clear. So I'm going to do that. I just put my hand on the edge of the pot. Do it about 4 or 5 times. It's already looking pretty good. Alright, now rice pots have lines in them where you fill the water up. And they're usually the same with their cups. But on my rice cooker pot, that pound of rice, the number 3 line works perfect. Number 2 is just a little too dry, and you know they'll keep cooking until they get the right consistency. But number 3 works perfect on mine. So I'm gonna put that in my rice cooker. Plug it up. Turn it on. What I like about rice cookers is they'll just cook it and then they'll keep it warm till I'm ready for it. Alright, so I'm all ready till the rice is, or till the tofu's done. So we'll get back at it then. Also, before I pull the tofu out, I want to get the grease heating up slowly. So I'm gonna get a pot now. You don't want a pan that's so big that you do all this at once, because your heat's coming up on the middle. And I've found that it actually takes longer to cook the tofu in a bigger pan that uses even more grease with the heat source in the middle than it does to use one pan that's smaller that I can fit one block in, and it just fits right over the burner I'm using. So I've tried it with a bigger pan and did 2 blocks in it at once, used almost twice as much grease or oil, and it cooked longer than it took me to do 2 blocks one at a time in a smaller pan. And I used a lot less oil. But you want enough oil that where you can cover the tofu, and we're cutting them in cubes when you put it in. So I'm putting about a half an inch of oil in here, almost an inch 3/4. And I know how high I can go in this pan where it won't overflow when I have the block in there, and that's right here. So I want to get this heating up so it'll be hot when I'm done cutting the tofu, and we're going to be doing that in just a bit. Okay, so I've had this in the freezer for about 20 minutes. That made it harder. You want it where it's not frozen solid, but where it's just solid enough where you can cut it in cubes where it won't crumble when you mix it up. I probably could have done this a few more minutes, but it's good enough. And then my oil's hot. You see it bubble in there, it's good to go. So I'm ready to mix this up. So I'm going to take this out of the package. Cutting board. And what I do, it's messy, so as I cut right down the middle of the tofu block, and then I flip it over, and then I just cut lines evenly across. Rotate it, and then I do it again. And that will give me cubes. And then I take my second empty container and I take the block carefully and I put it in there. It's still going to crumble a little bit in places. And then I'll take my container, if it has any sauce, I'll go ahead and pour that in it. Usually not much. Wash my hands. And then I take soy sauce. So you want to be a little wet to take the breadcrumb a little more, and I'll just put a little soy sauce in there. And then I just kind of mix it around my hand a little bit. And then I just take it and I put it in my flour, a seasoning mix. And then I just gently toss it. And that way the breadcrumbs and the flour stick to it. And you see I got a nice braided cube there. And then I just put them in the oil. Slowly, carefully. Try not to put your fingers in it. And I have this on medium high. Now, I'm just kind of going down in a line here so I can get it all kind of evenly in there. Now, depending on how hot your oil is, this could take 10 minutes or less. So it gets that gold. You want a golden, crisp color, kind of a dark. Depends how crispy you want it. We'll show you how we do ours. We pull it out. The first block always takes a little longer to cook than the second block because your oil's fresh, so it looks lighter for one. The Plus the oil hasn't gotten as hot as it will be on the second block. And you're going to need like something to put this tofu in to let the oil kind of trip off of it. I have a little strainer here I put mine in, but if you don't have that, you could take some plates and put about 4 or so paper towels on it and just put the tofu right on that. Alright, so I got the whole block in there. Let that cook a minute. Constantly wash flour off your fingers. Take your pair of tongs. So don't wait a minute before you start going crazy with it, but if you need to lightly move it around to get them all into oil, you can just do that a little bit. You can see they're already starting to turn a little brown here. So we're going to let that cook a little bit, and then my wife will pull them out. So it's been about 5 minutes, 5 or 6 minutes here, and they're starting to get golden, good and golden brown. So we just continually pull them out, and once we get this whole block out, we're going to do the second block, and we won't record that whole thing, but we just go all the way through this, and then once you have them all done and strained, we'll go to the next spot, and showing how to prepare it for the with the sweet chili sauce we have to go with the rice. And if you could also just use these on a salad or something too if you wanted to without sauce on there. Or you don't have to use sweet chili sauce, you can put anything you want on it. Orange sauce, anything. So I'm finished frying up all the tofu. I rinsed out the bowl that I mixed the tofu in with the soy sauce to begin with. And I just got the fried tofu all in it after I've strained it, or you put it on the paper towels. There's all my tofu. That's the colors you want, a dark brown. If you want it real crispy, you can go even darker. And I'm gonna take I put the rest of my flour mix and I put it in a bag. So I make this every week. I'll save this and use this again next week. I won't have to make the mix next week. So, and you use whatever you want. I'm using Asian sweet chili sauce from Great Value from Walmart. It's wing sauce, but it'll work on everything. It's also vegetarian. It has a bit of a kick to it. It's cheap. It's a couple of dollars, but it isn't super spicy, but it's delicious. So I'm just gonna pour the whole bowl right on that tofu. And then I just get a big spoon, big plastic spoon or whatever. You just want to make sure it's thin enough to get under the tofu without breaking it up. And just mix it up gently. Tofu will still break. And then we have our rice. And we put in our rice cooker. It's all ready to go. And I use brown rice. You can use white rice if you want, it don't matter. I just prefer brown rice. So I'm gonna put that rice in all the bowls and then put some of this tofu on top, and then we'll show you what it looks like afterwards. Okay, so I put my rice in 4 bowls, and I put my sweet chili sauce covered tofu on top. It's all done. Looks delicious.